Todo mundo sabe hoje que isso é um planeta limitado. A maioria dos recursos que a nossa sociedade está baseada são recursos que não se renovam. Então, portanto, nós temos que achar uma forma de viver a partir desses recursos que se renovam. Que é o solo, quando bem cuidado, que são as florestas, quando bem tratadas, né, que são os animais, que é a natureza, que está aqui como a grande âncora da possibilidade de sobrevivência humana.
All civilizations that have existed up to now always collapse because of the same reasons, and that's they use up their resources without awareness that they'll deplete themselves. Well, my name is Ernesto Mercado, and I'm actually from Puerto Rico, but I'm going to school in New York City for urban environmentalism.
I'm from Germany. I was born and grew up in Germany, but I lived in the United States for 20 years before moving here to Brazil.
I started to learn more about what was going on in our society and about resources and energy specifically. And when I started to realize that there's going to be some serious problems with energy pretty soon.
It is clear that our modern civilization and the economy that is based on requires energy more than anything else. Energy is the lifeblood of our civilization. And most of our energy comes from oil, from fossil fuels. Although we have technologies to exploit other sources of energy, they are still far more expensive and in smaller supply than oil.
We're using up these resources and they're reaching the end, and basically we're like at the peak of our energy consumption and availability of energy, and that energy is disappearing. So pretty soon we're going to start declining energetically because there is no other resource that we found so far that's actually working that can supply as much energy as these fossil fuels, specifically petroleum, natural gas.
Limited natural resources, when they are exploited in the way that metals and oil and other non-renewable resources are in our civilization, follow a bell curve. Once they're found to be useful, they start being taken from the earth at an increasing rate. People look, because they generate wealth, people look for more and more of these, and they find more and more of the deposits of these resources that are easy to get at. So, at the beginning of an exploitation of a natural resource, you find the ones that are most easy to get at. So you find the oil that's closest to the surface and exploit that. This generates wealth. That wealth then allows you to explore more and more, look for more and more of these resources, and also start to exploit some of the ones that are more difficult to exploit, that require higher level of technology. But eventually, when you start getting close to the point where you've used half of the total available natural resource in the world, at that point, the curve starts leveling off, just like the top of a bell curve. So when you reach this middle point, which is known as Hubbard's Peak, thereafter, there's still half of this natural resource left in the earth, but that half is much more difficult to get at, because you've taken all the easy to get at resource. So it will take more money, more investment, more risk, and more time to exploit the remainder of this resource. It's difficult to get very precise data, but most people agree that the peak for the entire world has to happen sometime in the first decade of this millennium. That is about approximately now.
And the premise of capitalism, for it to work, is that we need to have an unlimited source of resources, an unlimited source of energy, so that the capitalist system, so that the market could continue to grow. And that way, as you invest, you will get more in the future because it is always a growing market. There's always a growing commodity, a growing quantity of things. But as this source is depleted, that idea has been held in place a lot because we've had this intense source of energy. But without that source of energy, it's going to become very obvious very quickly that resources are actually a lot more limited and a lot more valuable than what we experienced so far.
If we have indeed passed the Hubbard's peak for oil, then within just a few years, oil prices will double, triple, and all the economic activity that's dependent on those oil prices will decline in proportion. Transportation of all goods will increase the prices of all goods because everything has to be transported using oil. Air travel will increase double, triple, quadruple in price because oil is the primary expense. Fuel is the primary expense of airlines. Food will increase in price because most of our food is not grown locally. It is grown someplace in large industrial quantities at big industrial farms and then shipped for thousands of miles to other places.
And fossil fuels right now is what allows for so much interaction in the global market is the fact that we have these really fast transportation devices. It's not boats anymore. It's not boats carried by wind anymore. It's actually jet planes and cars and trucks. So it's a big chunk, or it's a big part of the foundation of this economy.
We could continue to inflate stock markets and so forth, up until the very last moment, that always they would find new ways of stealing from the future and spending it now, right? Because this is what we're doing. We're stealing from the future. We are depleting the natural resources, right? At the economic level, we are building up debt, greater and greater debt, and there seems to be no end to this. But how can this go on forever? Right? So what I learned is that it will go on until it hits reality on levels that collide with nature itself. When the insurance industry collapses because there are bigger and bigger hurricanes every year, when oil prices go through the roof because we have passed the point of peak oil, only then will the economy start to come in alignment with reality. But at that point, it will be too late for civilization to fix the problems, to become sustainable slowly. So it will be some kind of big disaster. So once I realized this, I decided that there was no longer anything that I could do by remaining within the system. So instead, I looked for a way of dealing with what comes after, surviving, teaching other people to survive when the disaster comes. And that's why I'm here.
We have to do something to reverse that process. And I believe that permaculture has a lot to contribute in that aspect because it's very much about creating resources by creating ecosystems in harmony with human beings. We can live within ecosystems and have healthy systems, not getting depleted, and actually create new ecosystems that could keep growing.
Permacultura é uma metodologia de design, é uma metodologia de planejamento e de execução que visa a integração entre todos os elementos de um sistema, desde as pessoas, os animais, as plantas, as tecnologias, tudo isso funcionando de forma integrada para a economia de energia, economia de recursos e produção das necessidades essenciais das pessoas, sem comprometer as necessidades das futuras gerações.
Em verdade, o coração do IPEC foi construído com muita ajuda voluntária, muitas pessoas que acreditou numa vida sustentável.